Good afternoon and welcome to the Central Cemetery of Vienna, or Zentralfriedhof as it's called. And it's a beautiful day, so I thought let's take the camera out and let's take a look at one of the biggest, actually the second biggest cemetery in Europe and one of the biggest in the world. So let's see. So this cemetery was built in around 1863, and it was built outside of the city in a district called Simmering because at that time, because of industrialization, the Industrial Revolution, people were living a lot longer, a lot more medicine was available, so there were less deaths, complications in birth, so there were more babies being born. And so the Austro-Hungarian Empire, Vienna being the capital, at the time they thought, well, God, we're going to have all these people dying within the next, 100 years or so. And they said by the end of the 20th century that the population of Vienna would be about 4 million. Little did they know that the empire would collapse in 1918. So they built this, but they built this cemetery in response to that kind of problem, that issue of overpopulation, or the amount of people that would die. And this is why it's so massive. I think it's about 4-5 kilometers wide. Hey, I should have looked up my facts before I come in here, actually. But it's also a lot of really beautiful nature, and it's just kept pristine, and you can see hummingbirds, and you can even see deer and antelopes kind of jumping across the tombstones if you're very lucky. I'm not sure if we'll be that lucky, but I've definitely seen them before. And behind me here is the St. Charles Borromeo Church. This is a Roman Catholic church that's right in the centre of the cemetery. So it's never open. I've never been there when it's open, but it's certainly an impressive building, I must say. But this stands large in the middle of the cemetery, and obviously a lot of services will be carried out there. If someone important dies, they'll probably hold a mass or a funeral service in there, if it's someone really important. But for people like me, or you, if we died, I don't know how you'd end up here, but they usually do about 25 to 30 funerals a day here. For those who don't know anything about the Central Cemetery of Vienna, it is massive. There's about the tram, the number 71 tram that I took here, there's about 5 entrances. It takes about, I think, 10 minutes to get through the whole thing. So it's absolutely huge, and it's just filled with, there's 33,000 gravestones here. And that's not mentioning the people who are actually buried here as well. But it's very famous for its nature. And it's just a little bit out of the way of the city. Some of these are, hundreds of years old, and some of these are really modern. So there's a lot of people just kind of washing the graves and making sure the flowers are okay. But there's a lot of famous people buried here as well. Beethoven, Falco, who's a famous musician, Schubert, Strauss. A lot of famous composers are buried here. And I would like to find some of them and show you them if I can. But we'll see. Let's see if we get lucky. And these are for the French soldiers.
Yep.
Who died in 1809.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
30 years.
Napoleon.
Or not, yeah, Napoleon.
So 1809. there was actually quite a bit of controversy when this place was built, because when it was built, it was because it was such a massive cemetery for the perceived overpopulation that was going to happen. They were going to make it a, everyone could be buried here. So Catholics, Jews, maybe Protestants. I don't know. But so they were going to make it. What is that word? But any religion, And this caused a big controversy within the Roman Catholic Church at the time, and there was big protests about it. So what happened is they ended up opening it in a very small ceremony in the early hours of the morning. I think sometime in the 1870s. And so this is the Catholic part of the cemetery, and there are 2 Jewish areas as well, I think, but they're somewhere over here, I think. They're way, 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 way off. Again, probably like a couple kilometres that way. And eventually, in November 1938, those Jewish cemeteries, and they'd been opened and around since the beginning, the oldest of which in the cemetery are the 2 Jewish sections. And in November 1938, during Kristallnacht, Night of the Broken Glass, which was a famous anti-Semitic event in kind of the Nazi rule regime, where Jews were targeted. A lot of the cemeteries were smashed and broken, and a lot of the cemetery was completely destroyed, where the Jewish people were buried. So, obviously, Austria being absorbed into the Third Reich during the Anschluss in 1938. Look, this place is so large, it has a bus timetable on it. And there's the map here. You can see that. Blimey, that's how big it is.
Male, female or angel? What do you reckon?
Those are quite big tits if it's a guy, fair play. Yeah.